Nature puts several types of energy sources at our disposal. Besides fossil fuels such as coal, oil and natural gas, which are pollutants as well as finite resources, we can also take advantage of renewable energies that will never run out. The sun, wind, rivers, oceans, geothermal heat and biomass provide us with the energy necessary for mankind's essential needs: electricity generation, heating, cooling and transportation. Portugal is rich in renewable energy sources. The country's investment in renewable energies, which will be consolidated over the next decade, will bring in numerous advantages. The main source of renewable energy used to produce electricity in Portugal is hydropower. The National Renewable Energy Action Plan forecasts that by 2020 the capacity of large hydropower plants will significantly increase. Likewise, small hydropower will see its capacity increase by over 50%. In total, hydropower will represent a quarter of the electricity consumed in Portugal by 2020. Harnessing wind energy for electricity production is the sector that has grown the most and will continue to do so over the next 10 years. In fact, a large part of the new forecasted capacity has already been granted, which means that approximately only 1,000 megawatts still need to be licensed by 2020, including offshore wind farms. In 2020, wind energy will be the second largest renewable source for electricity production, practically equivalent to that of hydroelectric power. The use of biomass for electricity production is limited to the availability of the resource, which must be carefully managed, especially where residual forestry biomass is concerned. The estimated increase for installed capacity by 2020 is in part due to new power plants dedicated to residual forestry biomass, as well as the increase in biogas power plants. Biomass will be the third renewable energy source for electricity production. Solar energy is taking its first steps. It is the renewable energy source with the greatest potential for future development in Portugal, thanks to the country's excellent solar exposure and the decreasing costs of solar technology. In 2020, the electricity production from this renewable energy source will derive from mini and micro generation projects, from centralized photovoltaic power plants, and concentrated solar power. The sources of renewable energy with less expression in the Portuguese electricity mix are ocean and geothermal energy. Wave energy is still in a research and development stage, but in 2020 it is predicted that the pilot zone in São Pedro do Moel will have 250 megawatts, which corresponds to a strong investment on an emerging technology for which Portugal has great potential. Geothermal energy is also going to be developed, for now only in the Azores region. These two sources combined will contribute with 1% of the electricity consumed in Portugal. Globally speaking, over the next 10 years, estimates indicate that the percentage of electricity generated by renewable sources will exceed 60%. The expected installed power of renewable energy sources translates directly into increased development for the country. Wind energy clusters formed by the winners of phases A and B in a tender launched in 2005 are an excellent example. The NEOP cluster, which won phase A, is located in Viana do Castelo. This industrial complex, comprised of 5 factories, is where the wind turbines, blades, fiberglass and concrete towers are built, and also where the mechatronics unit assembles the components of the nacelle. This complex, in addition to 7 other industrial units located throughout Portugal, represents an investment of 220 million euros, employing 2,100 people, and with 60% of its production output destined for exportation. The Vent Invest consortium, the winner of Phase B, has its industrial complex divided between Vagos and Oliveira de Frades, where the blades are built and the nacelles assembled, and Maia, where the generators, transformers and the remaining electrical components are built. This industrial cluster has created over 1,300 jobs, with 60% of its output capacity destined for exportation. In parallel, the Portuguese solar photovoltaic sector has grown dynamically in the last 4 years. In 2008, the Renewables On the Spot program laid the groundwork for the emergence of over 1,000 companies dedicated to the integration and installation of PV systems. Of these, somewhere between 15 and 30% represent new companies. The turnover of these national companies has already surpassed 100 million euros. Furthermore, estimates indicate that the sector is currently responsible for creating and sustaining more than 3,000 jobs related to installation, commercialization, and production activities. The annual production capacity of photovoltaic solar panels currently exceeds 100 megawatt peak. National companies providing different types of services are also involved with the renewable energy sector, driving new businesses and consolidating the already existing ones. Research and development in this area is amongst the most advanced in the country. More and more specialists are being trained, and national know-how is expanding, which is in turn exported along with services and equipment. The impact of renewable energies on the Portuguese economy tends to increase over time. A study carried out by Deloitte for APREN showed that in 2015, the impact on the GDP, the number of jobs created, the savings in costs related to CO2 emissions and fuel imports will be significant. In addition to impacting the economy, the use of renewable energy sources for electricity production plays a very important role in the battle against climate change, reducing CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gases. In 2009, the production of renewable electricity avoided the emission of 7 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. By 2020, estimates indicate that this contribution will grow to 16 million tons of CO2 equivalents. The global economic and environmental context is changing quickly, and renewable energies will be part of the solution for the challenges facing the 21st century. Portugal intends to remain in a leadership position in the renewable energy sector. Therefore, it is essential to start preparing for the future now. In the summer of 2010, the Portuguese government submitted the National Renewable Energy Action Plan to the European Commission, which outlined how it intended to meet the objective of ensuring that 31% of the total gross energy consumed would derive from renewable sources by 2020, the fifth most ambitious goal within the European Union. Till then, challenges must be overcome, such as the integration of more renewable energy in the electricity network, improving regulation in the energy sector, and facilitating environmental licensing and administrative processes. Programs for the development of new technologies such as electrical mobility and the development of smart grids have already been launched. The greatest challenge will be regarding energy demand. The main priority for future energy strategies should be energy efficiency, which leads to a lower consumption and a better use of our resources. Much has already been achieved in the renewable energy sector in Portugal, but a great deal more needs to be done to reach Portugal's ambitious goals. APREN will continue to work to assure that Portugal remains an example in this sector. The collaboration of everyone is needed, and we cannot forget that renewable energy guarantees the future.